So in this lesson, I'm going to rewrite multiplication of terms with variables. So in other words, I'm going to take something like this. This is 8 times a number. Another way of showing that is just writing 8x. Another way of showing 4 times y is just 4y. Another way of showing w times 7, some of you will want to write w7, but that might look like w to the 7th, which is wrong. So we just do 7w. This is the one you'll see the most. And x times -6 can simplify to -6x. And even with fractions, half times x is just half x. Okay, so what do we do when we have a number and a term with coefficients? So in other words, 8 times 3x. So let's space this out. What does 3x really mean? 3x really means 3 times x. So this whole 8 times 3x really means 8 times 3 times x. And remember, you can multiply in any order. Like if it's all like together, you can multiply in any order. So 8 times 3 is 24x. Remember that this just means 4 times 9 times y, but we can actually do 4 times 9, which is 36y. -4 times 7w. -4 times 7 is -28. We got to multiply by w. -2x times -6. So a negative times a negative is a positive 12x. And lastly, we have half times 5x. Remember, if it's a fraction, we need to multiply by a fraction. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. No x times x. We get an x. Actually, there's no use in wasting all the space. So what happens here if we have 9x times 2x? Well, remember, this is just really 9 times x times 2 times x. It's like a block of multiplication, a string of multiplication. So since you can multiply in any order, we can do 9 times 2 is 18. But what do we do about this x times x? Well, remember that like 4 times 4 is 4 to the second power. 5 times 5 is 5 to the second power. So x times x is x to the second power. Try it again. 7y times 6y. 7 times 6 is 42. Y times y can be represented as y to the second power. -5w times 6w. Negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 6 is 30. W times w is w to the second power. Next we have -x times -x. If it helps you, we can put a 1 here. But a negative times a negative is a positive. A 1 times 1 is 1. X times x is x to the second power. But this actually simplifies to just x to the second power instead of 1x to the second power. And lastly, we have 2/3 x times half x. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. If you care, we can divide each of these by 2 and get 1/3 x squared. All right. So let's multiply these more. Like, we're just slowly getting more complicated, right? 3, really this is 3 times x times x times 5 times x. So 3 times 5 is 15. And if we do x times x and later on do it times x, that's really x to the 3rd power. If you want to write it out, we can write it out. I can expand it. Times 6 times y times y times y. Remember, string of multiplication, any order. 4 times 6 is 24. I'll write that a little differently. 24. And y times y times y times y is y to the 4th. All right, let's try to do it without expanding. A positive times a negative is a negative. 4 times 2 is 8. W times W times W times W times W is W to the 5th power. All right, let's put this 1 because it's helpful. Negatives times a positive is a negative. 7 times 1 is 7. Remember, this is x times x times x times x times x, which is x to the 5th power. It's negative y cubed times negative y cubed, negative y to the 3rd times negative y to the 3rd. I like to put these 1s. A negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. Y times y times y times y times y times y. It's not 9. Some of you will see 3 times 3 and put 9. But remember, y times y times y times y times y is y to the 6th power. Remember, we don't really, let me write this a little differently. Yeah. This one is a little off. So we don't really need this 1 in front. So it's really just y to the 6th. Lastly, we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. 1 times 6 is 6. W times W times W times W times W times W. So in reality, if you haven't noticed by now, we have 2 x's and 1 x. We get through x times x times x. We're multiplying by y once. We're multiplying by y 3 times. We're multiplying by y 4 times. We're multiplying by w 3 times. Multiplying by w twice. We're multiplying by w 5 times. And this last one, we're multiplying by w 3 times. And then we're multiplying by 5 times. So we're multiplying it by a total of 8 times. Lastly, let's talk about equivalent expressions. So 3x squared times 2x. A positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. We multiply x 2 times here. And then we have multiplied by x another time here. So it's x to the 3rd. If you need to see it, remember, you can always do 3 times x times 2 times x. 3 times 2 is 6, x times x times x. So the expressions 3x squared times 2x, that's our first expression, and 6x to the 3rd are equivalent. They just look different. So let's go ahead and prove that. So let's make x. We have a 3, a 2, a 6. Let's use 4. So 3x squared times 2x should be equivalent to 6x cubed, 6x to the 3rd. So 3 times 4 squared times 2 times 4 should be equivalent to 6 times 4 cubed. So remember, nothing in parentheses, so we should do exponents first. 4 times 4, not 4 times 2. 4 times 4 is 16 times 2 times 4. And then we do multiplication. We may as well just do everything at the same time. 48 times positive times a positive. Okay, let's back up. Positive is a positive is a positive. 3 times 16 is 48. A positive times a positive is a positive. Eight. I was thinking about something. Technically, we can just multiply from this, but we'll stay with what we're doing. 48 times 8. 48 times 8. We get 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 plus 6 is 38. So 384. All right, let's compare that to this expression over here. 4 to the third is 4 times 4 is 16 times 4. So that would be 32, and then 64. So we get 64 times 6. 64 times 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 2 is 38. So we end up with 384. These are in fact equivalent. Okay, thank you.